Hello, Tanisa here with another podcast. I know I do these kind of infrequently right now. I tend to do them when I get fired up, so once again, this is no different. I know that if you are not living under a rock right now, you've been seeing the topic of the Religious Freedom Bill, which ironically really bugs me just from its name alone because to me the whole religious freedom would mean that religion is actually being actively oppressed. And if you consider the people who are pushing for this bill, they have of a faith that is the least oppressed in this country, yet they feel they need a bill passed that can legally allow them to discriminate. And let's face it, folks, you can put lipstick on a pig, but it's still a pig. This bill that several states are trying to pass, Indiana had already passed it and now trying to backpedal and amend it. But this bill that the state that I'm currently in, North Carolina, is trying to pass will legally allow a person to say, my faith goes against this being who is trying to shop at my store, and even a step further, trying to receive medical treatment or services from me, so I have the right to refuse this person on moral standing. Now, when you break it down like that, when you allow anybody to say, my faith allows me to tell you no, that's a slippery slope that nobody should be going down. Our forefathers founded this country on the basis of religious freedom, on the basis that their religion was being oppressed several hundred years ago by the crown. So they came to this land with the idea of a separation of church and state. Sadly, our government, who goes to school and learns this, is making a mockery of this by making bills and laws that obviously will allow for discrimination. Now, some people are getting fired up about it being used to discriminate against gays and lesbians, which obviously, there are plenty of people who use their faith to say that homosexuality is wrong. Which to me, once again, you've known my stance for a while. If you're a grown folk and you're more worried about what two grown adults are doing in their private life and their love, then you must live a very sheltered life, because I'm looking at a world where there are still people who are hungry and homeless. I'm looking at a world where kids are being turned away from our borders because we don't want to take care of them, yet you'll argue for the life of a fetus that has not been born yet. Don't get me started on what's messed up about this world against what people are really superficially worrying about, because I can take hours for that. But let's not paint this as a bill for religious freedom. Those two words should not be associated with this bill. It is basically a bill that says I can use my faith to tell you, because you worship differently, because I might see you as somebody who does something morally offensive like a tattoo or perhaps or certain piercings or body modification. It's not just about somebody's sexual preference. This law is legalized discrimination. That's why I have an issue with it. And what really bothers me is when I go to social media, which I do tend to go to social media when I'm fired up about stuff like this, because it's easier for me to convey my thoughts typing it out, or like in the privacy of my own home during these podcasts. But the main heart of me going to social media is because I know I can reach out to family who might not have thought this way, and to friends. And you always have that one person in your circle of acquaintances that has to freaking try to spin things and show another side. And I don't normally mind. I get into debates all the time. I have one friend that is so conservative that some of the things that he says just makes me go, I could never hang out with you outside social media. I really do not think we would gel, because you're on so far end of the spectrum on who's a drain on this country, and your views on low class versus middle class versus the rich. We would probably not get along. And it's sad because we do like a lot of the same things, but just from his opinion, I've realized that, yeah, him and I would not be drinking buddies. But this younger person, and I know if he listens to the cast, he's going to realize I'm addressing him. What he suffers from, and what he will probably get angry hearing me say that, is he suffers from white privilege. And I know that when I say that word, especially having friends who are white, it can be a powder cake. I can either get sympathy from those who really understand what it means to live that life, to outbout anger at me for how dare I say that they have white privilege. Now, what they don't understand is you don't have to be rich to have white privilege. You don't have to have anything fancy constantly handed to you. What white privilege is, being born white in this country seems to allow a certain amount of differentness when you're treated. Okay? My son cannot walk around certain areas with a BB gun because of his race, even though he's mixed, because he's black. There's a real possibility that he could get shot for holding a BB gun. Versus this kid, and I call him a kid, but he is a grown man at this point, but I've known him since he was a kid, who could literally go into an area, shoot something up, have a shootout with a cop, and get arrested and still be alive to stand trial. See, this is the kind of privilege that people don't want to talk about, but it's there. So he comes at my topic with the viewpoint of, well, I don't like certain things about people, and I think if I was employing people, I should be able to express that right. First of all, that's discrimination. Whether he understands it or not, that's discrimination. Because you don't like a certain person's look or attitude or what they do with their own bodies, you don't want to hire them, and you really want to fight for the right to that. Okay, then when it flips over and it's on the shoes and somebody looks at you and says, you're white, we won't hire you, how would that make you feel? I guarantee you he would not like that. And see, what bothered me about him is he kept equating people disagreeing with his stance, because he made a very strange stance about transgenders and how he feels that it's morally wrong. And you know what? I'm of the mindset that humans are going to believe what they want. I am not going to try to change somebody who, for me, I feel is wrong in their stance, but it's their stance. Like, he's trying to equate people not agreeing with his stance as discrimination, and it's like, no, hun, and this is how you know you've lived a life of white privilege. You don't even know what it means to be discriminated against. You think people actually debating you and saying your stance does not gel with us is the same as being denied services because of your race, denied services because of your gender, or being transgendered, being denied services because of your sexual preference? If you can honestly put yourself on that level because somebody doesn't agree with your opinion, then you have no idea what it means to be discriminated against. And I've seen so many things he posted that I just go, 10, leave it alone. Because you can't understand that mindset. I don't know what it's like not to be discriminated against. I don't know what it's like to be born, I can't put it any other way. I can't be PC about it. In this country, you have the right race. And for right now, the right race is Caucasian. And we have a certain level of money. If you make a certain level of money, you might be able to get away with certain things if you're not the right race, but it's still not the same. And that's what he can't understand. And I don't believe that I could get through to him in a debate. I honestly don't, because I go by my empathetic feeling, and he already bowed out of the conversation because he felt he offended somebody, instead of opening his eyes and actually reading the words that were being responded to him. And that's exactly the ploy that a lot of people will use with this. They will go and say, well, I'm being exploited too. People don't want to hear my viewpoint because then they discriminate against me. And it's like, stop using the word discrimination. Okay? Or get a dictionary. Because somebody not agreeing with your opinion is not discrimination. Somebody actually debating you for your opinion and telling you why we may feel that that opinion doesn't open your mind up to understanding is not discrimination. Somebody telling you you can't get a job for your opinion, that's discrimination, hun. Somebody telling you you can't shop at their store because of your opinion, that's discrimination. You bringing that bullshit to a conversation on social media and calling it the same thing, saying that people would treat you badly. Yeah, I'm sorry. To me, reading what you wrote about transgender people, I don't feel empathy for you. I don't feel that. I even wonder why we're still considered friends at this point. Because to me, you don't know what that life is. You don't know what it means to be brought into this world, one gender, but trapped as another gender in that body. I don't know that feeling, but it doesn't mean I can't be empathetic to somebody who does. Just because you cannot experience something does not mean it does not exist. And that's the problem I have with people that argue straw man arguments. And he made straw man arguments all over the place with this. And then he tried to semi-agree, like, I'm not saying this isn't a slippery slope, and I'm not saying that they shouldn't call it religious freedom, but I'm just trying to see it from another side because it's ignorant not to. And when he did that, it was all on. I could not hold back some people from responding to him because that's the mentality he has. He's young. He has never felt real oppression. I'm saying it. I'm calling it. He can call me wrong, and if he got proof of it, I will apologize to him. But he has never felt real oppression. I'm going to say it right to you. You know who you are if you listen to this cast. That you have never had somebody tell you, you cannot work here because of your gender. You cannot work here because of your color. And definitely you cannot work here because of your faith. So until you go through that traumatizing experience, until you walk a mile in somebody's shoes who is different, who is in a country that boasts being in the land of the free, and tells you in the same breath that we are going to pass laws to say that businesses have the right to shun you, you need to stop. I'm not even going to curse at you at this point, because normally I'm just fired up. I just like to curse the person out. But I am trying to be a little bit compassionate and understanding, because I do realize that there are a majority of people who are bathed in this ignorant thinking that if it doesn't happen to me, it obviously doesn't exist. And I hate to try to put that on this person, but that's how his viewpoint comes across. He has never felt the sting of true oppression. He has never felt the sting of true discrimination. And because of that, he comes at us with this, oh, you've got to see it from this point of view. It's like, no, hon, we don't. Because we've been seeing it from our point of view far too long. And our point of view is being held down. You can't tell somebody who is constantly being whipped to understand the person whipping them's point of view. What part of that don't you get? And it's not just him. He's just indicative of several people in this country, scarily, who have positions where they can get stuff like this passed. They don't know what real oppression is like. They don't understand what it's like to be shunned because of your faith. And now, because they feel that people are being allowed to marry who they love, their beliefs are being oppressed. How is two grown people who happen to be gay get married going to affect you religiously? Huh? Especially when most religions teach loving your fellow man, being supportive, helping your fellow neighbor. They don't teach you to indoctrinate everybody into this Borg-like mentality to practice what you practice or you're going to hell. This is a problem I've had with my best friend for years because he is stuck in that mentality. And I realized after 10 years, there's no unsticking that. I have washed my hands of trying to help him realize that there is no one true faith. I honestly, wholeheartedly believe that he is never going to believe anything but his faith is the one true faith, and anybody who doesn't want to follow his path is doomed to go to hell. And he gets mad at me because I say, well, my faith doesn't believe in hell, and I worship the earth that I'm on. And it's like he goes out of his way to try to save my soul. And I try to find comfort in the fact that he worries about me and he cares enough about me, but it does grate on my nerves that he will not budge even a bit at times when it comes to this. He can't understand because he's never lived that life. He was born the right race. He worships in this country the right faith. So to him, because the majority of people are saying this is the right way to do things, that anybody who's different obviously has to be wrong and saved. And that's the mentality that we have to steer away from. Nazi Germany, and I hate to bring up Nazism, but Nazi Germany was founded on the principle of idealism. When you allow idealism to run your country, whether it's morals, whether it's faith, whether it's a popular belief, when you start passing laws on idealism, it will bring the whole fascism movement that everybody claims to be against. It will bring a dystopian society, because when you go down the slippery slope of not allowing somebody proper business services, proper medical services based on faith. Who is to stop somebody from now passing